Lots of clickbait to talk about this week. Sales are plummeting, according to one news outlet in South Carolina. Redfin reports that 14.9% of buyers are just walking away from their deals. This week, Market Monday with Paul Marconi. All right, hey, I got Paul here with me. First time on the show, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got the Bluffton numbers. What do you see here? What is, if you're going to boil it down to a couple key points?
Sales are down. I feel like a lot of sellers, with the way things are going, they're starting to be a little bit more hesitant because they're not going to get the top dollar that they could have gotten a year or two ago because they decided to wait. Part of that is also just going to be interest rates rising. It's a little bit harder for buyers to afford the house that they want to do, especially if they lock in at a rate.
What if the slowdown is really just more about there's not a whole lot out there to buy? Like, I was just looking at the numbers. The inventories levels right now are historically low. Like last year they were low, right? Because last year was like the best real estate market ever in the eyes of real estate agents, right? Because there was a lot of transactions and inventory was really, really low. This year, inventory is like another 20% lower than it was at the same time last year, right? At some point, you run out of things to sell and sales have to drop off. How much do you think that's in play?
That plays a certain role into it. I think a bigger thing is the buyer's purchasing power to get the home that they want down here and the way things have appreciated. Because our market down here is a little bit different because we are a high rental area. The closer you get to the water, the more things are going to be expensive.
I mean, the cost of the houses have gone up and the cost to borrow the money has gone up. You add those things together and people could be paying literally, in terms of their payment, 50, 60, 70% more than they would have been paying, just a year ago.
And then you just have the cost of living on top of that.
So did you see the Redfin article? I got a bit of a chuckle out of this about contracts falling apart. The news has been advertising it like crazy. They're saying that June was one of the record worst months, June 2022, with people walking away from contracts at a rate of 14.9%. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Big number, right? 14.9%.
That's a good amount, especially when you look at 60,000 contracts.
Yeah. But here's what I thought that was funny. Clickbait. This makes it clickbait, right? So in June of 2021, the lowest point ever, 11.2% of people walked away from contracts. So the market was at the best that it was ever at. 11.2% of the contracts, the properties that were under contract, people walked away from. So the difference is really, 14.9% minus 11.2.
Buyers have a little bit more negotiation power now. They're not waiving every contingency possible.
Yeah.
So they're actually going in, having the inspections done, seeing certain problems that may be with a home, and then they have the power to back out of it.
10 real estate markets are cooling the fastest. Here's what you need to know if you're a prospective buyer. The list of 10, 6 of the 10 are California, 2 in Washington State, Boise, Idaho, Denver, Colorado. Those are the markets that are cooling the fastest. Notice there's nothing west or east of the Mississippi. Everything is west.
Yeah.
Really west.
I think their price of living has gone up even more than we have out here. I'm not really familiar with the western side of the market, but I know we are not cooling down very much over here.
Yeah.
You have certain parts, but...
Or the 10 that are slowing down the least are all east of the Mississippi. So probably has something to do with the politics and taxes and those types of things.
Me being from New York, part of the reason I came down here was to get away from those taxes.
Yeah.
You pay more in just school taxes up there than you do for all your property down here.
Last article that I saw was from the Island Packet, and it says home sales plummet in South Carolina by double digits. Here's where it's worst and why buyers aren't biting. Beaufort County is down 16.6%. Hilton Head Island is down 16.2%. But what I would point out to everybody is that seems like a lot, but to our conversation at the beginning, inventory is down 19%. And it was down significant the year before. So like at some point, sales decline because there's nothing to buy. Like if you go to the car dealerships and you try and buy a car, like a lot of them don't have any cars.
No.
So how are they gonna make sales if they've got nothing to sell?
They had them all sold off. I went through it a couple months ago trying to get a car.
These things are just clickbaity. The media wants to have excitement and drama, and so much of this stuff just seems really, really clickbaity to me. 15% of the transactions are falling apart, and like that's horrible. But then during the strongest market ever, 11.2 fell apart. So
they're just trying to cause hysteria.
100%. We got one mailbag question this week. Virginia says being a first-time home buyer sucks right now. Yeah, I can imagine. It's slim pickings and it's more expensive for sure. I keep hearing that if I wait to buy, I'll end up paying more. True, but I also need a lot of cash to close that I don't have. What am I supposed to do? So I would get aligned with a lender that's really good, that can help give you advice and prepare you for an eventual purchase.
And that's one of the big things is working with a good, reputable lender. There are certain programs for you as a first-time home buyer where they'll give you certain grants towards your closing costs, down payment, certain things like that. Two of them, the first-time home buyer grant, it's a forgivable down payment assistance. So it's essentially a second mortgage on your home that you don't have a monthly payment for, you don't have an interest rate, but you have to occupy that home for X amount of time. So that can help you with funds towards certain down payments, closing costs, things like that.
Sure. If the timing is not right, the timing is not right, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. The timing will be right at some point. I would just have a trusted advisor and a plan in place so that you know exactly what you're working towards. Well, I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
Let's do it again soon.
We will.
All right, man.